Welcome to another exciting edition of American Warrior Radio, the place to be for news, notes, interviews, and current events for all issues military and veteran related. If you or someone you know has ever served in the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place. American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL, and online worldwide at 1300WMEL.com. And what that is a signal to you to tell your folks and friends and everybody that lives outside of our terrestrial radio signal to dial us up right now, because we're coming to you live on 1300WMEL.com. As always, this program is sponsored by AVET Project. Folks, this program is all about supporting our troops and their families, both past and present. So please get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of iced tea, because we're in the throes of summer, Glenn.
Yes, we are.
And grab a pen and paper to jot down a note or two, because, man, we've got a jam-packed episode, and we're going to be bringing it to you, and you're going to want to take some notes so that you can refer to them and also share this information with others. With that said, let's roll down the runway and get this show off the ground. Y'all know me, I'm Garen Cohn. I'm an Air Force veteran, a retired legal advocate for veterans, and founder of AVET Project. But you also know that I never fly through the airwaves alone.
Good morning, I'm Glenn McGuffey. I'm retired Air Force and retired as the manager of the County Veteran Services team, where I was honored to serve our veterans and families for 22 plus years. As always, today we're going to bring you another great show. And today we have a couple of great guests to talk to you about some programs that sometimes don't hit your radar until you got a problem, or you're really down on your luck. So with that, I'm going to let Garen start off and interview our first guest. Well, at least introduce him. We'll both interview
We'll do
him.
the joint interview. And I want to say, folks, if you were listening, if you were tuned in to John Harper's Information Overload Hour yesterday at about 12:45, you heard a little snippet of what today's program is about. And I have to give hats off to our navigator. I don't know that I'm the pilot. I'm at least the co-pilot. We're co-pilots, Glenn.
Right.
And we got our navigator in the house, Kim, our producer, and Vince on the board. So thank you all, and thank you to John Harper for the continued support that makes this program possible. Without them, it wouldn't be happening. And Glenn, you mentioned that we got some power players here, and we got a great couple interviews. We're going to get started today. You've heard the promo, the PSA, public service announcement, here on AM 1300 WMEL about the Free Wills and Advanced Directives Clinic. Well, right now in studio we have one of the principals that have helped put this whole thing together. He's from the Brevard County Legal Aid. It's James Haggardd. Say hello, James.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, we're great.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us. And you're an attorney, James.
I am.
We're not going to hold that against you.
I hope not, because I'm here to help.
Yes, you sure are. Well, we're going to talk about the Free Wills Clinic, but before we get there, give our listeners a little biographical information about yourself, where you were born and raised, went to school, so on and so forth.
Okay. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, and been living in Brevard County for...
So you're a native Floridian?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, so you're the one.
Yeah.
The one and only.
Okay. So born in Jacksonville, lived here all your life?
Absolutely. And I work for Brevard County Legal Aid. I'm a staff attorney there. I work in family law, domestic violence, foreclosure defense. We try to help as many people with civil matters as possible.
Where'd you go to law school? They're going to want to know that.
Florida A&M University Law School in Orlando, so very, very close.
And there really aren't that many law schools nearby here, are there?
There are a couple. I can think of Barry's in Orlando, and we are as well.
Barry,
So
Florida A&M. There's some U of F, and then there's a Coastal up there in Jacksonville
Yes.
or something.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, you did mention BCLA. This is Brevard County Legal Aid. How long has this been around, and what kind of services do you provide specifically for the listeners of American Warrior Radio, which are probably either veterans or military? At least they have a focus on that. Are your programs open to everybody? As long as they qualify, are there some eligibility criteria?
That's the key. We're trying to help all the people who don't have representation through normal channels. People who are having some issues with income, whether temporary or long-term, and mostly civil issues. So we're trying to help them with family, with estate planning type issues as well. Again, real property in some instances. We're an interesting not-for-profit. We're funded by the Florida Bar. So the Florida Bar regulates all attorneys in the state of Florida. We are supported by the United Way and various other domestic groups that help with family issues as well. So we are a not-for-profit that is grant funded. As a part of that, we have to look at people's income. That's probably the largest kind of hoop that we have to ask people to jump. But outside of that, we have staff attorneys who handle a lot of issues, and we also have a lot of volunteers from the community that come in and hold consultations, half an hour, 1 hour meetings. Sometimes they do whole workshops on a variety of legal issues. So we encourage veterans to come and non-veterans as well. We just want to try to at least inform people as much as possible about all the different legal parts of their life, whether they have a lot of them going on or not. They may in the future.
And do you have any kind of special rules for counting income, or does everything a person gets as income count?
It's mostly based off the number of people living in the home, as well as what active income they have. Depending on what type of service they want, sometimes we look at what assets they have. For foreclosure defense, for example, if they're trying to save the home that they live in, that's an important question to ask.
Sure. So I guess where I was headed with that is if you got, say, a single veteran and the only money they're making is disability payments from the VA, would that count as income for your program?
More than likely, they're probably making they're making enough income to qualify, but not too much to balance them out.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So it doesn't have to be earned income from jobs. It's just income coming into the bank account, basically.
Absolutely.
But
We're trying to help as many people as possible, and if you can afford to obtain regular legal service, then that would be best there, because there's a whole host of people that have almost no income, regardless of where that income is coming from. And so we're trying to do our best to get to those people kind of first.
And like you often say, Glenn, you don't want to disqualify yourself. You don't want to be listening to this and say, well, I probably make too much money.
Absolutely. With this veterans program we put together, we've done everything we can to make the caps that we have to work with as high as possible and to count as few things as we can. So please don't think, oh, well, I probably make too much. You don't. You never know. Again, it's based off the number of people you're living with. It's based off of that income number, and we may not count things that you are adding in there as well. So please just give us a call and ask.
So whether it's a direct dependent, such as a child, or maybe they're caring for a parent, that could all factor in and help their eligibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's important to know. And we'll get to some of those specifics, because I want to throw some numbers out to the listeners when we get to the free simple will stuff. But I'm just looking over the list. Give the folks right now, and this is why I tell y'all out there in Radio Land to grab a pen and paper.
Oh, absolutely.
BCLA, what's the website? How can they go and actually look at this eligibility criteria?
Most of the eligibility is on the website. It's brevardlegalaid.org. We get a lot of people that just call us directly, and that's fine as well. You can call us at 321-631-2500. And we also have an email address, brevardlegalaid@yahoo.com. Please email us with questions. Even if we can't help, a lot of times we can direct people to an organization or an agency that does help. We're a member of the community, and so we try to work with some of the other veterans organizations and community groups as well. Maybe we can send you to somebody who can answer your question.
And where is your office located? Do you have a primary office or any satellites, or just the one?
Just the one. We're in Rockledge.
Oh, well, then I can find it. It's in Rockledge.
Absolutely. We're in Harvin Way, kind of in the center of Rockledge.
Okay, very good. Conveniently located, folks.
Absolutely. Center County.
And I just want to read your mission. We're committed to improving the quality of legal aid and assistance to protect personal safety, establish family stability, and ensure equal access to justice for low-income and disadvantaged persons in Brevard County. That says a lot, and it pretty much encompasses your mission.
And we're trying to do a lot. Every day we have 4 full-time attorneys and 1 part-time attorney, and a whole cadre of volunteer attorneys trying to make that a reality.
Okay, and since you receive grant money from the Florida Bar and like you said, United Way and others, depending on where they fall in in your schedule for income qualification, then they may end up not having to pay any money for the representation.
We don't charge for our representation. If you're accepted as a client, or we set an appointment for you at a clinic where we have a volunteer attorney coming in, we don't charge. We just don't, and that's one of the great things about our program. There's no sliding scale. The only time that somebody may have to pay is if there's a legal fee that is outside of our control, court filing fee, or if we have to do some sort of discovery and we have somebody come in and take a transcription. Those kinds of fees we just don't have enough economic support to cover. But the legal representation, the advice, the time, no legal fee there.
Well, this is absolutely necessary service. I know when I was serving as the manager of the County Veteran Services team, I used to refer people to y'all a lot because they would come in and say, I need the VA to give me some legal help about X, Y, or Z. And folks, listen up. You don't have to write this down because when I say it, I know you'll remember it. And that's the VA does not provide legal assistance for anything.
Yes.
So this kind of service is vital to our community and our veterans and their interests.
And there's a lot of other legal aid organizations throughout the state. If you just happen to be listening and you're in Brevard, we're kind of the first contact to get into that community, and we're happy to help. But if you happen to be just traveling through Brevard today, but you actually live down south, there are other legal aid organizations, and we can direct you to them. For example, Community Legal Services, which has offices in Orlando and some Daytona and other locations.
Sure.
We work very closely with each other. It's a community of our own, and we will work hard to make sure we get someone to help you.
Excellent. Now I wanted to talk again. You've mentioned a few of the issues. If somebody is out there and they just got a DUI, there's no need for them to call Brevard County Legal Aid.
No, we primarily focus on civil matters. We do not handle criminal at all. That's kind of a big dividing line for us. So if you have an issue with family dissolution, domestic violence, you're being foreclosed on, we do a lot of work with dependent children as well. And of course we also have people that help with debt collection issues, estate planning, and those sorts of things. So
Can you give us an example of the debt collection? Because we're in an economy that's suffering, particularly here in the Brevard area. There's a lot of folks that are unemployed, and those, creditors are hammering on their doors. What kind of services could you provide in that instance?
That's an area that we have a very strong commitment from local attorneys, where they come in and they hold consultations. If you're being hounded by your credit card company, give us a call. We'll try to see if you qualify income-wise. And you can sit down at least for half an hour with an attorney and say, this is what I'm going through, and they can give you some advice on your rights, how to proceed with this, try to understand what the process is. Most of the people I meet don't even have a concept for what the legal process is, and it very much, as I understand, like being in the military, is there are forms, there are procedures, there are people, there are hoops to jump and times to jump them in. And just knowing that can arm you a lot and take a lot of stress away from sleepless nights and so forth.
Yeah, that's well said. And also, speaking about the economic times that we're living in right now and coming out of hopefully a little bit, do you have a lot of foreclosure business?
Unfortunately, yes. Foreclosures in Brevard County have been very rough. My understanding is that we're one of the counties with the highest foreclosure rates.
Oh, my goodness.
We have a lot of people that come to us for that help that are in dire straits, and I can't emphasize enough that the sooner you come to ask for help, if we can help you, by the way, the better. It breaks my heart every day I come in and people call us up and they qualify, and we sit down with them, and they're in the very last stages of this. And sometimes we can help, but it certainly makes it a lot harder, and sometimes you just can't do some things, or they're extremely difficult and so a little bit out of our range, so to speak. But the sooner the better on these legal issues. Let us at least, give you some advice in that regard.
It sounds wonderful. Now I want to segue right into something that's near and dear to my heart. And you mentioned Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida. and the Brevard County Legal Aid, and also the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division, as well as AVET Project. We're all putting this together. This is the August 16th event that everybody's hearing about on the PSA on AM 1300 WMEL. Tell us a little bit about that.
We're in this event, what we're trying to do is help armed veterans be prepared. No, we don't want you ambushing your family. We want you going into the challenges of life being fully warned. We want you to be prepared. Unfortunately, it's not an exciting topic. Doing wills and advance directives is not something people go, oh, this is exactly what I want to do on a Saturday night. The good news is it's Saturday morning. So you'll be well rested.
There you go. There you go, from 10 to 2.
But it's important. I'm sure everyone in this room and everyone that's listening has had to go through a change in their life where somebody close to them died. And that's a lot of weight on itself, let alone having to deal with what to do with their home and what to do with their things, and help you if they're in the process of being extremely ill as well, what their preferences are. And so what we've done is we've set up this clinic on August 16th from 10 a.m. to 2. Again, we're very specifically with this event targeting veterans, but we have done other events for people, elder members of our community as well. But August 16th is all about veterans. And we're going to be doing simple wills, so nothing super complicated, and advanced directives. And those, if you aren't familiar with them, advanced directives have to do with some limited powers of attorney, designating people to make healthcare decisions for you, and choices when you can't make those choices yourself.
When you're incapacitated, you need somebody to
Absolutely.
be your proxy to
Yes.
help you out. And you've stipulated in advance. That's the key.
Yes.
And unfortunately, Glenn, we know about the grapevine out there and how many rumors are unfounded. One of them, and this is coming from a remarkably learned man, was under the impression that the VA would help them with their simple will. Now, they do offer advanced directive.
Yes.
Okay, that's about it.
In fact, I think that's
For
on the
healthcare.
medical side of the house. So.
Exactly. But folks, don't be misled. The grapevine out there, the rumor mill, whatever you want to call it, you've got to take it with a grain of salt. And like Glenn always says, why don't you just tune in to American Warrior Radio, where you're going to get the real news all the time. There's no free wills. There's no free lunch at the VA, and there's no free wills there. However, there is, I can't say free lunch because we're not providing food, but there is a free Simple Wills Clinic and Advanced Directives. And how did this come about? You mentioned that, and I know Christy Bagalow and Lena Smith with Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida. We've had Christy on the show before. They've done this in Orlando with great success. I think they served something like 50 or 60 people in one afternoon.
That's amazing.
And the thing of it is, like you said, this is something you got to do now. You can't do this after the fact. What happens if somebody out there listening doesn't come, if they qualified for the free Simple Will class, but they didn't go, and then, God forbid, a month later they passed away, what's going to happen to their family? What happens with their things, their worldly belongings?
Well, frankly, they lose control. I mean, if you want a good scary
Say
kind
that
of
again,
response,
James.
you won't have control. You will be bounded by decisions that are made by relatives in some cases that that they could fight about. You could cause a whole conflict among relatives trying to debate what you wanted to do. With regard to your assets, there are state laws that regulate how those will flow to your descendants, assuming that you haven't made that distinction yourself. And those statutory guidelines are designed to kind of work through it as equitably as can be, but that's not necessarily how you would want to do it in your relationships with your family members. So if you want to have control, if you want to know what's going to happen, if you want to avoid the fighting and all the emotional trauma that goes along with it, take control, do it, sit down. And I think it's important. We're talking about doing simple wills. We have a limited amount of time. We want to help as many people as possible. But there's going to be people that are going to come with complicated lives. We all have them. Or with regard to assets or something that they have very specific wishes that we can't help in the short amount of time we're doing this. It's important because if they sit down with an attorney and they talk through these things, we might be able to address some of them on August 16th. But if we can't, it's the attorney will alert them to that and say, well, you really ought to have a longer conversation about this, because this is something that's going to jump up and bite you later. So it's not just the simple will, it's the knowing what's going to happen or what sort of pitfalls that you aren't seeing ahead. It's the knowledge as well as the document.
Exactly, and talk about jumping up and biting us. Can you believe this segment's almost over? We're talking with staff attorney from Brevard County Legal Aid, James Haggardd, and the Free Simple Wills and Advanced Directives Clinic. You mentioned August 16th. It's from 10 to 2 at the Doubletree Hilton in Cocoa Beach. And we want to thank the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division for providing support for this, as well as your agency and Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida. Give them a number, because we want to encourage everybody that wants to participate to call and pre-register.
If you don't have a pen, go grab it now. If you have a smartphone, you want to make a little note. If you're in your computer, open up Notepad, whatever you do.
Lots of options.
Lots of options. It's the information age, right? Number is 321-631-2500. One more time, 321-631-2500. The extension is going to be 514. The extension again is 514, or just call in the main line and say, hey, I'm calling about the Veterans Wills and Advanced Directive Clinic. We'll get you to where you're going. If you don't like the phone and you prefer email, send us an email at brevardlegalaid@yahoo.com. Again, Brevard, B-R-E-V-A-R-D, legal, L-E-G-A-L, aid, A-I-D, @yahoo.com. And we'll get right back to you.
Could make it any easier than that.
Yeah, and we want to remind you that this is our favorite word, free.
Oh, what was it again? Oh, it's free!
Free. And also that Garen and I will be there doing a benefit seminar for you, and we'll be able, just like the lawyers are helping on that side of the house, help you understand and answer questions about the VA. We may be able to fill out a couple of simple requests, like for a copy of your DD-214 or those kind of things. More complicated things, we can make follow-up times to get together. So it's going to be a great event.
It sure
Free
is.
Simple Wills and Advanced Directives and Veterans Seminar.
If you're an active duty, reserve, guard, E5 or below, and you don't have a simple will or advanced directives, there's no reason for you not to come.
Exactly. We've been talking with staff attorney James Haggardd from Brevard County Legal Aid. It's the Free Simple Wills and Advanced Directives for Veterans. August 16th. Call 631-2500, extension 514. Pre-registered. They'll give you all the qualifiers. It's also on avetproject.org as well as here on the radio. We'll be back with American Warrior Radio right after this.